This presentation is looking at some generic principles and ideas around auditing and putting in context for the New Zealand outdoor commercial sector. So auditing is a system of checks and counter checks, and this dates back to Roman and Egyptian times of the financial accounts, government financial accounts. Accountancy and record keeping is probably the roots of auditing systems, make sure no one was stealing from the pot of government taxes. But obviously through the industrial revolution times, there was a much greater need for checking, systems of checking and counter checking in a whole range of industries, from textiles to making sure what you're producing at the end of a production line is up to a certain quality. So from textiles, cars, any manufacturing thing like that. And then more recently have been applied to a wider range of sectors like the outdoor sector. So the audits in New Zealand prior to the venture activity regulations in 2011 weren't required. Some organisations were getting them done because it was seen as good practice to get someone internally and externally to look at your safety systems. So within New Zealand context in the outdoors, they are safety focused in their outdoor education, recreation, tourism, adventure tourism sectors, and so primarily focused on safety and just an independent way of assessing your safety policies and procedures. The safety framework for the outdoor sector here. So it's obviously under the regulations that are required by law to have an audit done if you fall under the guidelines. But what is involved in that audit? How do the auditors know what it is that needs to be audited specifically? And those details are found in the safety audit standard for adventure activities, and that's developed by WorkSafe. So they set the criteria that organisations need to be audited against. So within that criteria, within the safety audit standard, these section headings here, so specifically stated leadership, hazard management, SOPs, emergency preparedness, incident management, document control, and a culture of continual improvement, a culture and systems of continual improvement. So all these section headings here are pretty much exactly some of the sections within your safety management plan template that are already there. So that's why that template is there, so that organisations know exactly what it is that they have to do, the areas that are covered, which relates back to the safety audit standard. So having an internal audit, there's two different types of audits, internal audit and external audit. So internal one is done by someone usually in a senior leadership position within your organisation, just who runs through a checklist to make sure that all the safety policies and procedures are up to scratch and up to date and are being implemented correctly. So that is an internal audit. So someone within your organisation, but not someone who looks after the safety management systems or plan themselves. So again, just trying to get a fresh set of eyes on it, but within your organisation. So an external audit is obviously getting someone from outside your organisation, so independent of your organisation, and come in and audit your safety systems. Under the adventure activity regulations, you are required to get an external audit every 3 years, and you also at the end of every year you do an annual declaration of conformity, which basically is a very short summary of any changes that you've made to your safety systems to allow the auditor to see if they need any more information. But the main ones happen every 3 years, and each organisation will be given a scope of activities, so specified what activities have been audited and fall under those that fall under the adventure activity regulations, and what a scope of the terrain that they can operate in. All right, so that might be a geographical terrain, so that might be just within the Craigieburn's Forest Park or Arthur's Pass National Park. And if they wanted to run the operation again in a different venue like Mount Aspiring National Park or Mount Cook National Park, then they'll just have to apply for a scope extension to the auditing body and the auditor, and potentially provide some more information to the auditor about how they're going to operate within those different locations. Processes. One is a document audit, and a document audit is where it's a paper-based approach. So with your assessment, you are doing a paper-based audit, external audit, but it's document audit, so paper-based or desk-based. So you're just going through all the written documentation, and you're not actually testing to see whether it is done. What they do in the field is what they say they do on paper. A field audit is exactly that, where you auditor would go into the field with the operator and see that they are abiding by the systems that they have written down. So seeing there is a match between what they say they're going to do and what they actually do. That's the field audit. Do you walk the talk? So it's impossible or not practicable to audit everything in the field. Just take way too long. So what the auditor will do is a sampling method where they will specifically highlight some area that they will want to look at, and look at that in the field. And then when the audit comes around again the next time, they'll probably choose a different area to focus on. So that's called a sampling method. So there are 5 auditing bodies that are certified by WorkSafe to audit under the Eventual Activity Regulations. So five certification bodies, but primarily the 2 main ones are Outdoors Mark, now called QualWorks, and Adventure Mark. Now those 2 of those hold the most of the they audit most of the organisations. Main reason for that is Outdoors Mark was operating external audit system prior to the Adventure Activity Regulations becoming into force. So they already had a bunch of organisations who were signed up with them, and they trusted, they had a good relationship with them between each other, so they knew the systems, and there was a good level of trust. So they ended up maintaining those clients when it became under law to be audited. WorkSafe have a register for adventure activity for operators. So if you click on this link, I'll provide the link below around, and it shows you what operators have been audited and what their scope is, activities they operate, etc. And here's a screenshot of that register I was talking about. So you can see here you've got 4 Drive Expeditions Limited. So what is their trading name? 4 Drive Expeditions. Activities provided, off-road vehicle driving, and what area, what location have they been, is their scope fall under. And those areas there, and the registration of their audit dates there. So the next audited in October 2022, and what auditing body whether they come under. So you can see the Adventure Mark has quite a few in the screenshot, and then QualWorks or Outdoors Mark as well have a number of. So you can go onto that register on WorkSafe and have a look at different operators to see if they are current or not with their auditing certification. In 2017, Shane Galloway did some research into companies who fell under the Adventure Activity Regulations, so 3 years after they were implemented, and came up with some interesting observations from that data. And so at the time, there were 330 adventure activity organisations across 438 different activities that they were operating. And within that, there were 736 major non-conformities and 2,748 minor non-conformities, and that led for the majority of them were in the risk management sections of the safety management system, so leadership and management, SOPs, and hazard management sections, which was interesting, which was a surprise because the sector, prior to the regulations coming into force, kind of perceived themselves as being quite strong in that area. So here is a table of all the non-conformities, major and minor, and you can see those top three sections, section 3, 5 and 4, as mentioned in the last slide, make up the majority of the major and minor non-conformities. Now, within those non-conformities of operational risk management, that there was the two key themes that came out. There was too wide a range of methods for how organisations were approaching risk management, and that staff were not trained properly or to adequate standard, and SOPs or standard operating procedures were not written. And just breaking it down a bit more, so under standard operating procedures compliance, here are some percentages or numbers, and then percentages over here of major and minor non-conformities. So staff competence, 67 major non-conformities and 155 minor, and clothing and equipment also quite high in terms of not being not conforming, either major or minor. Supervision structures, so that identifying roles and responsibilities, clarity around responsibilities, and ratios not clearly identified. So you can kind of see a whole range of different subsections here that weren't done very well over the time frame of this research. Another interesting feature that came out from the research was consultation. So it's very clearly stated within auditing, the safety and audit standards process, is that auditors and technical experts who are doing the external audits with the operator are not meant to provide a consultation role, not meant to tell the operator what it is they should be having and required to do and helping them in that regard. But 58 or close to 60% of respondents indicated that consultation had occurred. So interesting dilemma there for auditors and technical experts around wanting to help, but needing to provide that extra step back with not getting too involved and leaving it up to the operator to work out what is required for their business to operate safely, not giving them the answers. And finally, there's a good short article here around how valuable checklists are, and relating it to different sectors, the medical and airline sector, around the use of checklists, which is interesting and helps relate to auditing and operating safely.